Though Robert Hemenway led KU as a chancellor for 14 years, he never lost touch with his background as a scholar on the works of Harlem Renaissance author Zora Neale Hurston.
It becomes pretty apparent, not through anything that he says, but it comes pretty apparent. He's not just a Hurston scholar, he's the Hurston scholar. So yes, manager, leader of this complex institution, but at the core of all that is this sort of really highly regarded scholar and teacher who always stayed connected to it.
Hemenway came to KU in 1995 after serving as chancellor at the University of Kentucky. He immediately began making bold moves at KU, early on leading the transition of the KU hospital from a struggling state-run institution to a thriving public authority.
He certainly had the vision for the necessity of developing the public authority. He had the vision for making sure that we had legislative support, and was determined that it would be successful, and did everything he personally could do to make that happen, including holding all of our feet to the fire. And it was a critical moment, and it's really been the foundation for the growth and amazing ability of our campus to thrive.
The hospital change was just the beginning of Hemenway's involvement on the medical center campus. He knew Kansas City was important to KU's future, and that KU was important to Kansas City's future. And he made it his goal to increase the university's prominence in the metropolitan area.
He was ever present in Kansas City. He would go to functions, he would go to meetings. He was really the face of KU in the Kansas City market, more so than anybody had ever been before him. Kansas City doesn't have a major research university, and there's always been the debate within Kansas City about what's the role of the University of Kansas, what's the role of the University of Missouri at Columbia, what is UMKC's role? And I think Bob did the best job of defining that the major research university for Kansas City, as you look into the future, is going to be the University of Kansas.
That role took on even more prominence this summer when the KU Cancer Center earned National Cancer Institute designation. During a speech in 2005, Hemenway set NCI designation as KU's #1 priority.
Universities are very large, diverse organizations that have a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of constituencies, a lot of competing interests. And I think most senior administrators try to avoid listing any priorities, let alone actually prioritizing them. That was a big step for us, and to be so upfront about it. It was a way to emphasize to all sorts of different groups throughout the region that the University of Kansas has put their foot down and decided that this is the direction they're going to go.
The NCI effort also exemplified Chancellor Hemenway's vision of what he called one university, with all campuses working together on a common goal.
We were able to put together a much stronger application by leveraging off the respective strengths on each campus. And certainly throughout his tenure, it was pretty evident that he was absolutely committed to making sure that the medical center and the undergraduate campus both were working in the same towards the same goals and trying to achieve excellence in a way that made both campuses better.
The NCI designation wasn't the first time Hemenway set big goals for KU. His hope that KU could someday become a top 25 public research university guided many of the projects the chancellor initiated on campus.
I think he set a certain tone and standard at KU, which was striving for excellence. We talked frequently about the importance of national rankings and how a lot of those are perception, but yet perception becomes reality. And I think he took KU into a more national perspective in many areas.
During Hemenway's time as chancellor, KU more than doubled its research expenditures, saw a 9% increase in enrollment, including a 47% increase in minority students, saw an 18% increase in faculty, including large gains in the number of minority and women faculty members, raised $653 million during the KU First capital campaign, spent more than $1 billion in facility and capital improvements, including the new Dole Institute of Politics and the expansion of the Edwards campus.
One day he walked into my office one September afternoon and said, "Warren," he said, "we've got to do this and we've got to do that," and he had laid out a whole lot of things we had to do. And so I said, "Well, you know, you remind me of somebody." And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "I was in the Seabees in World War II in the Pacific, and our motto was can do. We build, we fight, we build, we fight." But I said behind that was this saying, if it's very difficult, it might take us a day, but we do it immediately. If it's impossible, we might take several days. And I said, "You remind me of that for some reason." I said, "I believe you'd have been a damn good Seabee in World War II. You'd have been superb." And I said, that's what I like about him. He's a very practical guy, very frugal, but practical, but brilliant. And he gets things done. And on top of it, he's very humble.
When he said it, you could count on it. And in Topeka, that's important. And I very much trusted his all of his statements. I know legislators did also, governors, and he had that kind of demeanor that was accountable and knowledgeable.
Through his busy time as chancellor, Hemenway continued to teach a class in the English department and cherished his interactions with students.
I definitely think that from a student perspective, the fact that he went back to teaching, the fact that he was a part of the classroom life the entire time he was chancellor, says a lot. I think it shows that he really cared, that it wasn't on a macro level all the time, that he really cared on a micro level, and he wanted to be there helping students and really being a part of the university.
Hemenway also worked closely with student leaders on a variety of initiatives, including the 4-year tuition compact and development of differential tuition to pay for specific upgrades on campus.
The thing I remember most about Chancellor Hemenway was that he was such an advocate for student input. He really understood KU's culture of having a long history of student input and student involvement, and he was an advocate for it, and he believed in involving students in the everyday business of the university and keeping them educated as to what the goals of the university were.
In addition to his academic leadership, Hemenway became known nationally for his leadership in intercollegiate athletics, serving a 3-year term as president of the NCAA Division I Board of Directors. His involvement was a recognition that, as he put it, athletics is often a front porch for the university.
Chancellor Hemenway loved athletics. He didn't come around a lot, but he was in my locker room numerous times after big wins and sometimes just after practices, and I certainly enjoyed getting to know him and most importantly, really appreciate the risk or the chance he took on me in hiring me to be the basketball coach here at Kansas. It's a dream job for me. It's a job that I absolutely cherish, and it would have never happened without Chancellor Hemenway. And there's great pride in our sports teams here, and I think that's one thing that Chancellor Hemenway totally understood, was the fact that nothing ever was going to sacrifice or demean the academic reputation at all, but it could be enhanced through athletics as well.
Through all his accomplishments both on KU's campuses and nationally, Chancellor Hemenway may be just as well known for his signature straw hats, but ultimately it'll be the various hats Hemenway wore as chancellor that will leave a lasting legacy for generations of Jayhawks to come.
He doesn't change personality hats, as he moves from one setting to another. I was never in one of his classes, but I'm sure that the Bob Hemenway that his students saw in class was the same one that staff members saw in Strong Hall, and I know that the guy that I knew and worked with in Strong Hall was absolutely the same person I had the opportunity to work with from a different perspective when I was with the Board of Regents. And again, he didn't have to remember sort of which hat to put on because he was authentic, and sort of what you see is what you get, and I think that's a kind of thing that Kansans appreciate.